Oh, I forget every single time I try to film this angle. That doesn't really work because although I'm directly on with my like garden doors, which gives me light straight here, which is good for the filming this way, the kitchen window, even though I've pulled the blinds completely shut, there's still a bit of a glow in the background, but hey ho, hopefully it's going to be okay, you won't get too distracted by it. Oh, you know when you plan to have an early night for something and you're like, right, today's the day I'm going to be really good, I'm going to have an early night, and then it just doesn't go to plan? It's exactly what happened last night. I was actually supposed to film this video yesterday, today's Thursday, and normally my filming day is on a Wednesday. However, yesterday I woke up and I was feeling really lethargic, really tired, wasn't quite in the right frame of mind to film, so I thought, no, do you know what, I'm going to push it to tomorrow, I'm going to do it on Thursday. I'm going to have a restful morning today. I had some other work I needed to do with like my training and stuff, so I thought, well, I'll do that in the morning, and then I've got my training in the afternoon. And I'll have a little bit of a nap just to kind of recuperate a bit before my like online training, and then I'll get an early night tonight so I'm really refreshed for tomorrow to film. That was my plan because recently I've been going to bed maybe like around 11:30, but then I like to read in bed, and I've been reading until like gone past midnight, sometimes even 1 a.m. in the morning if I've got a really good book, and then Oren wakes up anytime between 7:30, occasionally more towards 8, which is really good for a baby. Like he's a really good night sleeper most of the time. But obviously if I've gone to bed at 1 and he's up at 7, then I've only had 6 hours of sleep, which for me is not quite enough. I do need a good 7 to 8 hours sleep to feel like fully refreshed. But I was like, this is ridiculous. Like he goes to bed at like 6:37, and then I'm up until this late hour, just kind of the age-old debate about like having your own time to yourself and wanting to make the most of it, or getting an early night's sleep. And I was like, no, you know, I've had some time to myself this morning because I wasn't filming. I was able to have a bit of me time kind of earlier in the morning after he'd gone to nursery, then did my work, and I was like, no, I don't need as much tonight, so I can go to bed earlier. Of course, he then woke up at like 11:15, I think, and normally he's really easy to settle. Now, even like though I've stopped breastfeeding, he like I hold him, I rock him, I sing to him or I hum to him, and he usually goes down relatively easily after that, and he doesn't wake that often now, so this was a bit unusual for him to wake. But of course I went into his room and I immediately smelt that he needed a new nappy, and the simple act of having, and I also decided he was a little bit cool because yesterday it was like 30 degrees here and our flat has no aircon, so it was quite warm in here, so I thought I'm going to put him into a short sleeve vest in his lightweight sleep sack and that should be fine. But when I went into him I felt his arms and I was like, actually I think he's a little bit chilly, so I'm going to put him in a long sleeve vest instead. So I ended up changing his vest, changing his nappy, and of course the act of doing that, even though I didn't turn the main light on, I just put the night light on, it woke him up completely. So it took him about an hour to get back to sleep, so it wasn't until 11:45 that he'd gone to sleep, and by that time I was like, well, I've blown my early night, haven't I? And then I think he also woke up in the night because I woke up around, I don't know, I don't think I checked the time, but I heard him cry out and I woke up and I was like, did I dream that or not? Because that's happened once or twice where I've like imagined in my dreams that he's crying and I wake up and he's not actually. And I looked at the monitor, I could see him moving about a bit, but he wasn't crying anymore, and he didn't cry out again, so he just, I think he might have bumped his head or something on the side of the cot, but then rolled over and got back to sleep. I'm not entirely sure, but anyway, he was fine. But that woke me up in the night, and then he woke up at 7 this morning. So didn't end up with my good night of sleep like I had planned. So I am a bit tired for this video today, please forgive me. Anyway, today I actually wanted to talk a little bit about sickness and solo parenting, because I think this is one of the hardest parts of solo parenting and one of the things that worries people the most about going down this route. And if you've been following my videos, you know that I recently had quite a bad bout of sickness where I was ill for 2 weeks, which is very unusual for me. Obviously I catch bugs from time to time, but typically they just take like a day or two or a couple of days at most, but 2 weeks is a really long period for me. And some of the usual strategies I used, I realised weren't going to be effective during this 2 week period, so I had some new things, so I thought I'd kind of talk about that today. But before I go any further, I want to introduce you to the sponsor of this video, which fits in quite nicely with this topic, and that is Magic Mind. This is Magic Mind. It is a mental performance shot, and it has a bunch of vitamins, minerals. It's packed full of things that are going to make you more alert, more aware, focus better, and also have better energy. It's a drink that works better over time, so the benefits of this accumulate the longer you take it. Typically, it takes around 3 to 4 days to really feel the improvement from it. It's not like a caffeine shot that you take and you instantly feel the hit and the energy and then you power things out. No, it's designed to kind of work over a period of time. So I think I started feeling the benefits of taking this around 3 days after I started taking it. It's a neurotropic, which means it helps you to really focus. It contains 12 different ingredients, including your full daily dose of vitamin vitamin C and D, which is one of my favorite things about it, because I live in the UK, like even in the summer we still need to take vitamin D, and I never ever remember to take it. So having it included in this drink along with all the other like vitamins and minerals is really good for me. The main thing this drink does is boost your energy and your focus, which has been invaluable to me, particularly the last couple of weeks after I've been recovering from being sick and I've still felt like a bit lethargic and everything, because I can't drink caffeine like in a strong dose like a coffee. I can't have a caffeinated coffee. It makes me really ill. I haven't been able to have one since I've been sick with Lyme disease. This does have a natural form of caffeine in it, but it's a much lower dose, and so I can drink this without any problems. It doesn't cause any of the like palpitations and issues that I have with regular caffeine in a coffee. Because it's such a low dose of caffeine, you can also still continue to have your regular coffee even with taking this drink if you want to. But I think one of the best benefits to this is that if you're somebody who, for example, feels you've become a bit reliant on coffee and caffeine to get you through the day, particularly I think if you're a new parent, like, and you're shattered, I see a lot of parents who are reliant on coffee. Obviously I wasn't able to be. Switching that for this instead is a much healthier solution, and as I said, it has lots of other vitamins and minerals in it, so you just feel a lot better taking this than you do like slugging down an energy drink or a coffee, for example. So I definitely think this is worth giving a shot if you're somebody who's currently really struggling with energy and focus. Even if you haven't had kids, I think, I'm talking here a lot about new parents, but obviously there are plenty of other people who feel very lethargic at times. The other really good feature of Magic Mind is that it doesn't taste bad. Quite often you look at these shots and you think, oh, they're going to taste a bit rank, but this one really doesn't. It's got a nice flavour to it. It's green because it's got matcha in it. This is the one I'm currently drinking at the moment, actually. I'm someone who prefers to drink it kind of slowly throughout the morning. That's just how I personally do it. Some people would want to down it. You can also pour it over ice. You can mix it in with milk. There's a few different ways you can have it. There's not just, you don't have to just have it like this, but it doesn't taste bad. So it's not something you think, oh God, I need to take my drink this morning, and you kind of have to brace yourself for it. It actually tastes good. So if you want to give Magic Mind a try, be sure to click on the link in the description box down below. You can use my code Bryony20 to get 48% off your first subscription for the next 10 days, or 20% off a one-time purchase. They are a US-based company, but they ship worldwide, including the UK, so be sure to click on the link down below to check out if they ship to where you live. And a big thank you to Magic Mind for sponsoring this video. So when it comes to sickness and solo parenting, it's definitely one of the hardest parts of solo parenting, because parenting in general is tough, and doing it when you don't feel well can be really tricky. And one thing I'm learning is that as Oren is getting bigger, I think it's actually getting more difficult in different ways. There are things that are easier and things that are harder. So when I realized that I'm not feeling well, I kind of have a bit of a plan of action that I put into place. The first thing is I kind of assess how ill do I feel, because there's a big difference between I've got a bit of a cold and norovirus. So if I feel like just slightly under the weather, I've got a bit of a bug, bit of a cold, but I'm able to kind of function, then I don't really tend to do anything. I just tend to go through our usual day, but I might tone down some of the things we do. So for example, if I was planning to go and meet a friend or get out for the day, I might cancel that and just have a quiet day at home. Although I will say that is getting harder, because this Tuesday just gone, I was supposed to be meeting a friend. Neither Oren or I were ill, but I was supposed to be meeting a friend, and she had to cancel last minute for something, and I didn't have any other plans, and there wasn't anyone else around really to meet. So we ended up having just a quiet day at home, and it was really difficult. I did actually take him out to one of the stay and play sessions at the children's centre as well, because I thought he needed some other distraction other than just the toys we have in the flat. But this is now not enough to entertain him for a whole day. He needs to do other stuff too. By the afternoon, he'd sort of pulled out all the toys, played with them all a bit, put them on the floor, and really needed something else to distract him. And because I was feeling well, I was able to do that. We went for a walk, we went to the supermarket to pick some stuff up, but it did make me think this is going to be harder now when I'm not feeling well, because he could easily have a day here just playing with his toys. Couldn't do it like day after day, but we could have like 1 or 2 days in the week where we just stayed at home and had a really chill day, and he'd happily play with his toys for the day or watch CBeebies for a bit, but that now doesn't work for a full day. Like, he needs to do something else. And to be honest, even with us doing something else, even going to the children's centre late morning and him having a nap, he's still just the afternoon alone it was still difficult to just do this. So that is going to be challenging, I think, going forwards. So actually, in some ways, I think it might be easier if I'm feeling just slightly under the weather to just take him out somewhere to soft play or something, where he can go off and explore and play with other things, and I can sit and have a drink or something to eat and just chill there. That's probably going to be the easiest thing if I feel just minorly under the weather. But when I feel more sick than that, it's definitely going to get challenging. So if we're thinking of like levels of illness as being a bit like colours, I'd say that was more like the yellow level. Orange is where it starts to get a little bit worse. And I would say that the 2 weeks recently that I was sick, I was on like the orange level. Oh, the sun's going in and out. That's going to be fun for lighting. So orange level of illness is where I do definitely need to slow down a bit on things. This is the point at which I kind of drop all my expectations of cleaning, cooking, anything like that, and it's just like we're going to go into survival mode. We're just going to get the basics done that we need to. I'll make sure, obviously I have to make sure Oren's fed if he's not at nursery. I have to make sure I'm still fed, but I'm not going to worry about any tidying up or any washing that needs to be put on. I'll do the bare minimum of cleaning I need to do just to kind of get by, but no other jobs or chores I'm going to be worrying about. I'm just going to get through the day. And I'm also probably going to order myself a takeaway for dinner. Luckily, Oren is pretty reliable in that one of the foods he will almost always eat, which is actually he will always eat, knock on wood, up until now, which is really easy to make, is a peanut butter sandwich. So if I'm feeling really, really rough, I know I can always make him a peanut butter sandwich and serve it with some fruit, which we always have in the house as well. So that's the way I can be like, okay, I know you've had dinner, I know you've eaten a good amount, and I haven't had to worry too much about cooking it. So I just do like easy meals. If I happen to have been really organised and pre-cooked something and it's in the fridge for him, then he gets that, obviously. So just kind of really relaxing my expectations around not worrying about cooking like a fancy dinner for either myself or for him. We just eat and get through. Now, the kind of orange level of sickness is the point at which I would probably message my parents to ask for help. They are my main support network. But at this point, I would message them and say, hey, if you happen to be free today or around at all and you could come and give me a hand with Oren or with cooking or cleaning, whatever it is I feel like I need some help with, that'd be great. But if they already have plans, I'll say, like, don't worry about it. Like, if you just happen to be free, that'd be great. But if not, don't need to cancel them. I'm not that ill. So that's something that I would do at this level, because orange, you feel really grim and it's not fun, but you don't feel like you're dying, and you can get by. It might not be pleasant for the day, but you can get by. And so that's kind of where I would be like, hey, it'd be great to have some help if I can, but not the end of the world if I can't. And I have to say, usually at least one of my parents can help me out when I'm not feeling great. Sometimes my mum might message to say, actually, I've got meetings on and off all day, but if you're able to get over here, then I can help you look after him in between, and then you can stay the night and we can help out in the morning if need be too. So that's something that they sometimes offer as well. So I have done that before. But typically it's kind of like, if they can help, great, but if not, like, we'll make it through. Red level of sickness, however, is a completely different thing. I think the only time I'd say I felt, and I'm not even sure I would say it was fully red, but it was between orange and red, it was kind of like borderline between the two, was at Christmas time last year, where I caught COVID and I felt so ill. Like, I was absolutely shattered. I think I felt sick as well. I had no energy or appetite whatsoever. A little bit of that more recently. I think I might have had COVID post holiday and post the sickness bug that I had before that, the stomach bug I had before that, but it wasn't as bad as Christmas time. That time where I had COVID was absolutely miserable. I had no energy whatsoever, and it was like, if I hadn't had any help, I would have survived, particularly because I think Oren was actually a bit easier back then. He could still happily like play, watch CBeebies in the living room, and I would have just had to lay on the sofa all day, napping in and out, and we would have got by. Would be much trickier now to do it. But that was the point at which, if I'm at the red level, I'm going to be messaging my parents and saying, I really need help, and it's at a level where if you can possibly cancel something to come and help me, please do, because I'm really unwell. Actually, thinking about it, I've only had to do that kind of red level SOS to my parents one time, and that was when, it was not with Oren, it was when I was fostering, and I caught norovirus off one of my little ones, and I'd spent the whole night throwing up, and I had 2 of them, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get through this day without some help. And I remember messaging my mum at like 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning and being like, when you wake up and get this, please just come straight over, I'm really ill. And bless her, she did, and she was able to, take the older one to his educational setting, saying that so it's not obvious it was nursery or school, and help me out with the younger one too. So that was the only time that I'd like spent the entire day in bed. I felt so grim, and I really needed help. But fortunately, even if you feel like red level one day, you might feel like orange level the next, and it's, you might be able to survive after some help for a day. But it is something to think about if you're planning to go down the solo parent route of what is going to be your backup plan if you have a day where you are really, really ill and you do need some support, do you have a family member or a friend that you can contact and say, hey, I'm really, really ill? If so, maybe like establish with them this sort of levels thing, you know, of like yellow, amber, red, so that they know if you say to them, look, I'm ill and it's like red level, they understand like how seriously ill you are and that you really do need their help if they can possibly help you at all. If you don't have anyone that you feel you can rely on, do you have a setup of a backup with like nannies or babysitters that you know locally who can kind of come at last minute? Because you can build up a network of them too, but it does take a little bit of organisation beforehand. What you don't want to do is get to the point where you wake up one day and feel really ill and you need help right then, and you haven't built a relationship with any sort of nannies, babysitters, childcare professionals whatsoever. You really want to be able to have that relationship. If you are somebody who is working part-time, like I am, and you have a child who's in childcare some of the time, whether it's a childminder or nursery, for example, you could potentially have a conversation with them about, hey, like if I have a day where I'm really unwell and I can't look after them, is there any way you have availability to like ad hoc have them for that extra day? And obviously I'll pay and add it onto their bills, etc. Because some are more flexible than others. So that's something to look for. My nursery is actually quite flexible. And although I've got a really great support network with my parents, if there was ever a time they couldn't help me, I think it's very possible I could call the nursery up and be like, hey, is there any way you could squeeze Oren in today, because I'm really unwell and I need somebody else to be looking after him because I can't give him the attention that he needs. And I think they would, if they could possibly fit him in, they would, because they are really helpful like that. But some nurseries, they really don't have any flexibility at all. So it's kind of, and also that might be a deciding factor about whether you go with a childminder or a nursery or a nanny. Just thinking about all these things before you get to a point where you need them is something I would really urge you to do. So support networks are massively important. But even when you are not at that serious level, even if you're just at like, you know, yellow or amber, having some kind of system that you fall back on can be really helpful. But as I learned recently, my usual system of like, don't worry about cleaning, don't worry about tidying, putting the washing on or cooking, just kind of get through, eat noodles, whatever. That's fine if you're sick for a couple of days. But when I was sick for 2 weeks, it got to the point where I was like, actually, you know, I do need to do some washing now. I need to do some tidying up. Like, this can't go on forever. And that was tricky, particularly because I think I was worse the second week than I was the first week in terms of like levels of sickness. The first week I had really bad stomach pains and needed to go to the toilet like very quickly. But in between those episodes, I actually felt fine. So in hindsight, looking back, I should have at those points gone, hey, okay, let's put the washing on. Let's maybe just clean up the kitchen a bit. You know, do a few other bits. I do have a new cleaner now, thankfully, who comes once a month, and I probably could have asked her if she could have done an extra week or something if I really needed to. So that's another thing I need to bear in mind in the future, is if I'm ill for a prolonged period of time, to actually pay someone else to come and help me clean up when I'm no longer feeling completely grim, because obviously I don't want to infect them as well if I am infectious. But I think I actually need to be aware that if something's going on for a prolonged period of say more than like 4 days, that I actually need to start going, okay, what are the key jobs that need doing here, the key tasks I need to kind of keep rolling. And then when I do eventually feel better, then I'll tackle the main stuff of like the big clean, you know, big washes, etc. But we just need to keep the basics going here. That's something I think that I really need to work on in the future, because I thought I had it down, and then, as I said, a longer bout of sickness kind of really threw me off, and they got to a point where I was like, you know, we're running out of plates and running out of bowls, and it literally just takes me loading the dishwasher and putting it on. But that's something I normally like don't worry too much about when I'm not feeling great, because, you know, sometimes the smell of food and stuff and cleaning up can actually make you feel a bit more grim. But particularly by the time I got to the second week, I was like, actually, I feel even worse now. I have no energy and no appetite. I feel like I just want to curl up on the sofa and die. And I still need to feed myself and my son. I still need to clean up. I still need to put the washers on. It's built up from the last week I was ill, and that was not a fun time. So yeah, something in hindsight I think I need to get a bit better at is like, if I am ill and I've got bouts in between where I feel okay, get stuff done then. But ultimately, I think the things that have just helped me throughout the years, before I had my son, when I was fostering, and since I've had him, is just remembering that like it will pass, like you will feel better again at some point, and you just need to get through the days. And it's also okay if you're not the best parent in that time. You know, if you're being really fun and playful with them, if you've got the TV on all day, if you're not taking them out places, they're not going to the park, you can feel like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough with them. I have to say that that second week in particular, By pure chance, at the beginning of June, Oren started going to nursery 2 days a week because I started this training and I was working a bit more. So I needed the extra hours for that. And that was an absolute godsend for me when I wasn't feeling well, particularly the second week. Because I was able to I was well enough to get into nursery, and I knew if I could do that, he was going to be really well fed, he was going to be really well entertained, they were going to be doing lots of things with him, and he would be, you know, well looked after there, and, you know, that would help stimulate him as well. So that was an absolute godsend when I was feeling really grim, and that definitely helped me feel a bit less guilty on the days that he was with me, because I was like, we're having way too much screen time than you're supposed to have. The TV's on all day, I can't take you out anywhere fun, like to the park or to soft play or to meet your friends like we normally do. You know, just those fun things that we typically try and do together. You can't do them when you're feeling really grim. Aside from anything else, you don't want to infect anyone if you're sick. But also you don't have the energy, so you can't. And I think it definitely does make it easier to like mentally accept the days where you are kind of like dropping your parenting standards quite a lot because you're not feeling so good. But ultimately, the most important thing is that your little one is safe and fed, and that they're still loved, and you still love them, obviously, even when you're sick. When it comes to feeding them, just give them whatever you can. Like, if they have a day where you're feeling so ill and you can't face, you know, cooking, or the smell of certain foods is making you really queasy, whatever, if they just have porridge for breakfast, lunch and dinner, it doesn't matter. It's one day, you know, they've been fed. That's the most important thing. Plenty of toddlers and children exist off of beige food anyway because of preferences, fussy eating or sensory needs, whatever it is. Like, they're still fine. So one day of it, you're going to be fine, don't worry. And when it comes to screen time, just drop all expectations. If it makes your life easier, do it. It's at most hopefully going to be a couple of days, and it's not going to scar them for the rest of their life. Do what you can to get through the days to survive, and then know that when you're feeling better, you're going to be able to take them out for these walks in the park, to the playground, to soft play, to see their friends, do all these fun things again. It's just a small finite amount of time. So that's basically how I cope with sickness as a solo parent. I guess the three main points to take away from that is, one, drop all your expectations when it comes to household work and parenting style. Just get through and survive. The second thing is call in reinforcements if you possibly can, if you need them. If you can't get them, then, you know, you will survive, but it is a lot easier if you have people that can help out, and it's not a bad thing to call them if you have them. And thirdly, if you're feeling grim for more than like 4 days, then maybe just start to do some of the smaller jobs that need to be done so it doesn't all pile up, and then if you're ill for a long period of time, you've got so many jobs to do and you're still feeling really grim. But the first couple of days, I think you can drop them, pretty much all of them. By the time you get to the 4th day, maybe start thinking about, okay, like maybe I should empty the bin today, maybe I should put this load of washing on, maybe I can order in these like takeaway frozen meals that I can put in the freezer or the fridge, and then we can have something other than takeaway, or they can eat something other than peanut butter sandwiches and porridge. You know, whatever it is you're doing to survive, at that point maybe start thinking about some of the things you can do to kind of keep things ticking along. So those are just my tips and tricks, but I'd be really interested to know if you have any suggestions or things that you do that make your life easier when you have kids that are ill. I'm always open to more things to try. I think it's great to have many different tools in your arsenal when it comes to things like this, because unfortunately being sick is just an inevitable part of having small children, especially if they go to any kind of childcare facility. I can never quite decide either whether it's worse when it's just you sick and they're fine, so their energy levels are completely as normal and they're kind of wanting to do lots of things and you feel grim, or when you're both sick together. I think it depends on the illness. I think if it's just like a temperature and then feeling a bit like tired, if you both feel that way, I think it can be easier. But if it's a sickness bug and you're both sick, then I think it's worse to be both sick. I don't know, let me know your thoughts. But I think there are times where it's definitely harder to be the one that's ill when they're not ill, and times where I think it's harder for you to both be ill. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Do please subscribe. Big thank you, as always, to my Precious Star Superstar members who give me a bit of extra support each month. Thank you so much, guys. That's wonderful. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, everyone. Hope you have a great day.